Hello, happy Thursday. I hope everyone's having a fabulous day. I was just in my mastermind and I did a live there. And what I spoke about, I felt compelled to share on my personal page. Um, so I hope you guys enjoy this today. Um, I feel compelled to share it because I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs are struggling with this. And a lot of this topic has come to me, and I'm excited to share it with you today. So if I had to start my business again from zero, what would I do? Right? So many of us like worry what goes on in our business, and um, we like grab onto things because we're just so worried that it's gonna fall, it's not gonna work out, and then all these sorts of things. But sometimes when you think about things and you just go with the flow of life, you'd be so surprised what goes on. This past month, I had an agreement with a client that we both agreed that it was like time for us to both move on from each other. And there were certain things that they wanted to do that I was just not interested in doing anymore at my level. And I had a great experience there, and I was incredibly, incredibly thankful for it. And, in so many, many ways. And then since then, so many things have changed for me. And I feel like 5 years ago, or even just 6 months ago, I would be like on stilts, worried to replace that income. So I'm going to share a lot about that. And I'm going to talk about what I would do if I were to start from zero again. Things that just would not look the same. My first question is how many of us are entrepreneurs? Or how many of us are entrepreneurs want to be? So if you're live, I would love if you put that in the comments. And if you're watching the replay, I would love if you said that too. Now, being an entrepreneur, the main reason is like we want to make good money. And I know when I decided to be an entrepreneur, it was really more about being with my kids. For me, making good money was about being able to do it and be with my kids. Making good money is different what I think today versus then. But for me, just making a certain dollar amount to cover certain things was the good money then. But I did realize that without being an entrepreneur, it cannot really happen. And these days you want to be a multiple six-figure plus, and the only way to do it is being an entrepreneur. So, when I started and I had my kids, and I basically worked for free, and any of the jobs that I had, I wasn't even cutting my expenses for the day. I wasn't covering my food. I was not covering my travel. I was not covering my my childcare expenses. Heck, my oldest son came with me, and I'll never forget. I can't even say this one specific client because I sold myself as this stay-at-home mom. But all my clients, they were so sensitive and so compassionate to my son that some of them even had toys. They had separate areas for him. He came with me everywhere. Until this day, I love taking him everywhere. But what I did to learn the work atmosphere was, I did that. So I was working at a loss every day. My balance sheet stunk, let alone I probably didn't even look at it. But whatever money I was making, I was so thankful for. But if I were to start again, I would say this is a structure for like the first 9 years that I would do. So the first 2 years, which is kind of actually even what I did, was I would work for like a small startup that's struggling. And then you're like, why struggling? I would say struggling because you learn how to see how people thrive in that type of atmosphere. You're going to be taught how to work in that atmosphere. You're going to be forced to how to problem solve and put out fires. And as an entrepreneur, you're doing that all the time. So why not work for somebody else and do it first where you can learn? And then you're going to put in your own bank a whole bunch of nuggets to support you in that growth. And you're going to have that all the time. Not only are you going to problem solve, you're going to be able to put away money. So because you're not making payroll, you're not paying rent and supplies and office machinery, whatever you might need, you're going to a bit of money. And all of us have expenses, and we have kids and spouses and tuition and food and all these types of needs, but you're going to be able to put away money, because you're working for somebody. So being in that struggling startup stage, it teaches you a lot. Now, the next 3 years, I would go into like working for like a big company, something like Amazon or like Microsoft. And when you go into that next level, you learn to play like politics in there, how to work with like higher level people, lower level people. You're going to learn to climb the ranks. Also, you're going to see how different people climb the ranks in the company. You're going to see how people close deals. You're going to see how people cry in that atmosphere because of this pressure. So being an entrepreneur, you're going to learn all these different types of things about that. And when you're in the bigger company, you can save money here too, because you're not working for yourself and you have that guaranteed check. Now, the next one is kind of like the scarier phase, where we're like, you're working for like $1 million, like from the million to the $1 billion industry. And in that environment, chances are, even in there, it's almost like similar to like the struggling stage of like that first 2 years where I was suggesting, because chances are like a million things are going on and there's a lot of cleanup that has to get done, but you're learning in that phase. You're taking into account, forget about the learning, you're taking into account everything you've done in those 3, 5, let's say 7 years that you can take there to really thrive. So now you're becoming like this honcho, you're becoming this powerhouse where you're in there, and chances are you're also coming in at a higher rank. Now, at that point, you can go back into like a startup phase where somebody who's growing quickly, and you'll play a bigger role quicker, or at this point is a great point for you to be an entrepreneur. It's a decision depending on your growth and what you feel and what's going on in your life too. And at this point, you've put in the bank all these people that you've met for the 7 to 9 years. You are, not only you're putting in the bank all the people, but the different things that they're going to do to help to support you. You're building relationships, building relationships, building relationships. I can't say it enough. Keeping in touch with everybody. I mean, I'll tell you, when I first started MBS, one of my competitors, he came to me to buy me, and I said to him, why not make friends with me? And the cost, I'll never forget that day, the cost that it took me to go to him was more than what I was making at the time. And I went to go see him and everything like that. And I'm like, now we're such great friends. So you never know how things are going to work out. And keeping in touch with people is really, really important. Now, when you have all these people, you can recruit them. And it could just be that like, they may not be ready right now, but at a point that they will, or even temporary work. The big issue, what happens here is that when you take people from those bigger atmospheres, you're like, how do I pay them? You can offer them some type of equity into the company, some type of distribution, so that you don't have to feel compelled to take out these big loans, so that you can have these types of people on your team. Because that's a chance in itself. Even though they worked in the other companies, it doesn't mean that they're going to work in your atmosphere. So why do I share this? You're kind of like, if I'm already an entrepreneur, I'm not going back into the workforce. Yeah, I get that. But what happens is that sometimes in the struggling phase, you can use that type of setup to almost take a step back into your business and really use that structure of like a bigger company and working as an employee, even though you're an entrepreneur, because you take those learning curves into your company. Now, this client that I'm no longer with, I've learned so much, and taking that into account into MBS, as I was running my company, I'll tell you, it was a massive, I don't want to call it a struggle, but it was a lot to take on. And I'm gonna call myself like an uptight bitch because I was just so stressed out all the time, but I was happy. You know, I had what I needed, but now I'm able to step into my world in a bigger way, and it's actually happening. And I've had a really good month. And but not only have I had a really good month, but I'm doing it the way I want, and it's really evolving. I brought in some new business, but it's not even just about the business. It's how I'm working with clients. It's how I want, and it's establishing a process for them that they appreciate. Um, you know, to be brought into, and that the clients feel supported. Uh, like last night, I was bonused from my promoter an event that I got to moderate, which was a great surprise. And I'll tell you, it was really at the perfect time. You know, I went into the other ones with like a different approach because of what was going on in my life. And even to what I was wearing, my hair, my approach to people, the speaker who I interviewed, everything was like a completely different way. And so much more came out of it. Like it was me. And it wasn't like this fake person. And it's not that I was a fake person before, but it was a true picture of everything that I've been longing for and I've been wanting to do, that it's really coming together. So uh, a takeaway that I just want to share that's coming to me to I'm compelled to say is that sometimes even though business is hard and we need the money, it's really important to take a step back and reflect and see what we can do to take that area of struggling and figure out how to make it work. It's the hardest thing to walk into in the area that we're struggling. To walk into, and I'll tell you, it's painful. And for me, that pain, it sits right at the neck, and it goes into my shoulders. I'm going for all sorts of massages and all these things to get through it. But when you keep on going through those doors and you keep walking through it, it feels so great because one door closed, another one opens. And then as the answers come, it feels magical. So I hope you guys enjoyed today. I'm really excited that I got to share this. And I don't know the date, but I'm doing an entrepreneur webinar, like a master class. And these are the types of things that I'm going to build into it, that when you're building a business, some of these types of things that I talked about today, and some ways to balance in terms of the business, some key tips. So if you're interested in the entrepreneur to learn more, I would love if you put your email below or send me a message so we can invite you. They're going out soon. I forget the dates. But you know, it's going to be a great masterclass. I would be so grateful if you wanted in on it, that you can come and join us. And if anything, let me know. And I hope you enjoyed the live today. I love you all. Bye.